does Sukuk compete to bond? Because companies can earn or raise fund use issuing bond also.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, there are a few there.
Okay.
First, there are some other wealth funds out there in other countries. In Singapore, they have the two actually, Temasek and GIC. Of course, in Malaysia we have Khazanah. In Middle East as well, some Middle East they have sovereign funds. So it depends on the country to country to have these funds or not, this agency or not. But beyond that, I think if we relate to Islamic finance, I think we are the only one that focus on Islamic finance. We would like to push this. I think because we are an agency and the government, if we don't help the government to push Islamic finance, we cannot imagine any other agency can play this role. Alhamdulillah, in Khazanah, we are willing to spend time, money, resources for the purpose of developing finance. Maybe some other organizations may not be able to do so. In terms of companies, which company can do, I think I can talk for Malaysia. For Malaysia, I would say all companies should be doing Sukuk, unless your activity is non-Sharia compliant. Because in Malaysia, those days people say to do Sukuk is difficult because not many people understand. But now people understand Sukuk already. Investors understand Sukuk. In terms of pricing, it's cheaper. It's a simple rule. If you have a Sukuk structure, both sets of investors, Islamic investors and conventional, can come in and participate. So by the demand and supply, the more demand that is, the better pricing you can command. I think in our experience, you can do maybe between 3 to 5 bips savings if you do Sukuk structure. So which is good reason to do. Sometimes I feel sad because some companies, they have good assets to do Sukuk. They have plantations, they have buildings that they can easily structure Sukuk. However, they don't do. Because, I don't know, maybe they cannot convince the board, maybe they are afraid of doing extra work, I don't know. But in Malaysia, I think if anyone doesn't do Sukuk, it's not logical. Elsewhere, other countries maybe, but in Malaysia, all the incentives are there, framework are there, the councils, very familiar, scholars are very, they're familiar, so there's no real reason for not doing so. I mean, unless we cannot, perhaps kalau genting, don't do, it's fine lah. So, but any other companies, they should go Sukuk first. If we cannot, then conventional. Yeah. Have I answered most of your question? Indonesia, okay. Indonesia, as I said earlier on, as I touched earlier on, I think the effort is there. They have been talking about it. But again, I think you need to have I'm sorry to say, you need to have political will. You need to have that political will to push through. Alhamdulillah, here, as I said, all agencies are working and supporting towards that. Bursa, SC, Bank Negara, MIFC, we at Khazanah, MOF. Everyone is working and supporting the initiative. And that helps tremendously in pushing Malaysia to become the center. Nowadays, it's a speed game. You need to be very fast, otherwise, people will catch up. Every now and then, you may have heard that London wants to become a center, Singapore center, Hong Kong center, Dubai center, Istanbul wants to be center nowadays. So whoever come it fast, innovation, you have to be innovative, you have to be fast, you have to be, supportive, the government is supportive, then you will get there first. Yeah.
Maybe you can have one or two questions. Okay, thank you. I wonder, is there any case of default in Khazanah Sukuk? And is there any case of default? What are you going to do to cover all the risk? Thank you.
Okay. Alhamdulillah, no. That's why people like our Sukuk, because the default risk is very, very low. Okay. In terms of assets that we have asset covers multiple. That's what people see. You know, how much assets that you have. That's why and you have no issue in marketing your Sukuk. All our Sukuk from Ringgit Sukuk is all rated, because that's requirement by SC. SC requires all Ringgit Sukuk to be rated. We are rated by RAM, and we are accorded highest rating of AAA. For the exchangeable Sukuk, the requirement is that there's no requirement for rating. Why? Because it's backed by assets. There are shares backing your Sukuk. So there's no requirement for rating internationally. And as I said, people know what kind of assets we have. Let's say, in any case, Khazanah, to maintain our reputation, we will make sure that there'll be cash flow to pay profit payment when it comes due, and to redeem when it's mature. That one, we have to make sure our reputation is there, and we will never allow it to go for default. Danga, yeah, Danga it's rated for ringgit issuance, but for the Sing dollar it's not rated. Yeah, it's not mandatory. That's why, because it's not mandatory, I told the banker, I said, if it's not mandatory, I don't want to be rated, because simple reason. If you rate yourself, you have to pay for the annual rating exercise, and worst case is that if you have international rating, if your papers for 10 years, you have to do annual for next 10 years, and the kind of disclosure that you have to make is voluminous. The reason, I'm not against disclosure. However, being a sovereign wealth fund, there are some projects or deals that we have to keep confidential. Because we cannot allow, for example, when we want to transform, when we want to demerge Axiata Telecom, for example, we cannot allow other people to know until it comes